Hello and welcome. My name is Mark. This is Riffle, Shuffle, and Roll. And today we're going to be talking about a little game called Ghostbusters, the card game. If it's your first time visiting the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you're notified about new games every week. Ghostbusters, the card game, is a set collection and hand management game for 2 to 4 players. In this game, you'll be using action cards to move the ghost trap around the circle of ghost cards in order to catch and create sets of ghosts. There are a bunch of different ways to score in this game, and we're going to go into detail on how that works here in just a moment. For now, let's dive in and see what you get in the box, how to play, and my final thoughts. Out of the box, you get a rule book, a whole pad of scorecards, action cards, a deck of ghost cards, a direction card, a ghost trap, and a reference card. The action card deck has 57 cards, and it is made up of several copies of these 7 characters: Peter, Ray, Winston, Egon, Janine, Gozer, and the Librarian. Each card has an action that the player can perform, and not all of the actions are the same across the copies of the character. So this copy of Dr. Peter Venkman says move the ghost trap 3 cards counterclockwise. Now, the different copies of this card will have you move the trap a different number of spaces. So there is a little bit of variety there, although they use the same art for each character on each copy of their card. The ghost card deck is made up of 48 cards, and there is a large variety of cards in that deck. So here's an example of different ghosts in that deck, and you can see each card's a little different. Each card has a point value, a set icon, a class number, some of them have a slime value, and some cards have an ability. You'll see this red symbol. There's actually 3 different abilities: instant, action, and scoring. And that seems like a lot to keep track, but there's a reference card for players to use. Now there's only 1 reference card, so it'll have to be shared among the table. Players are also able to capture gear cards during play. These are part of the ghost deck. There's 3 different gear items: the PKE meter, the proton pack, and the jumpsuit. Before we get into how to play, you need to understand how you're going to earn points at the end of the game. So to begin with, each player will figure out their base score. Do this by adding up all the point values from your captured ghost cards. Players will also be able to earn set bonuses for having the most cards with that particular symbol. So the player with the most crosses will get 3 points, the player with the most stars will get 3 points, and so on. If there is a tie between players for most of a certain symbol, each of the players in the tie just gets 1 point rather than 3. Players will also earn points for sequences that they can make. So sequences are formed using the class number on the ghost cards. So here we have a 4, 5, 6. That would be a sequence of 3 in a row, and that would earn 1 point. A player can form as many sequences as they can. The sequences can start with any number as long as the numbers go in consecutive order. However, a ghost card can only be used in 1 sequence. So if I had other cards in my hand, I could not use these 3 ghost cards again to form other sequences. Points are also earned for capturing gear. If you only capture 1 individual gear item, you only get 2 points. 2 different items in a set awards you 6 points. And if you're able to capture all 3 items to create a set, that will earn you 12 points. If you happen to capture more than 1 of the same item, those can be scored separately in different sets or on their own. So if I had 2 proton packs, I could still form this set, and then I would either score the other proton pack with other gear cards that I captured, or it would only be worth 2 points all by itself. Some cards also have slime on them. At the end of the game, the player with the most slime cards will deduct 3 points from their score. The player who captured Slimer earns 1 point for each card they captured that has slime on it. And if the player who captured the most slime cards also captured Slimer, they do not have to deduct 3 points from their score. Instead, it is the next player with the most slime cards. So that is all the different ways to earn points during the game. You'll add all that up, and at the end, the player with the most points wins. Shuffle the ghost card deck and then deal 12 ghost cards face up in a circle to form something that looks like the face of a clock. The rest of the cards are placed face down off to the side of the layout. Shuffle and deal 3 action cards to each player, and then place the rest of the action card deck face down on the other side of the layout. Place the direction marker card in the center of the layout and make sure the arrow is going clockwise. The ghost trap begins above the card at the 12 o'clock position. Now that setup is complete, we can begin the game. This game is played over 3 rounds. The player who goes first in the first round is determined randomly, so decide however you want. In the second and third round, the player seated to the left of the player who captured the last ghost card will go first. We will begin this example with the player here at the bottom left corner of the screen going first. A player's turn is composed of 3 steps. The first is to take actions. A player may perform up to 2 actions on their turn, and there are 2 types of actions to complete. The first thing a player can do is play an action card from their hand. When a card is played, it is thrown on the discard pile, and then that action is automatically carried out. So for this card, it says to move the ghost trap 2 cards counterclockwise. So then the player would go up and move the trap 2 cards, 1, 2, in a counterclockwise direction. Now remember, a player does not have to perform 2 actions on their turn. If that's all the player wanted to do, they could stop right there. A player could play a second card from their hand and perform that action. So let's say they wanted to play their Dr. Raymond stance card and move the ghost trap 1 card clockwise. So they play that card and then move the trap 1 more to the jumpsuit. The other thing a player can do, you can see here we've reset the player's hand and moved the trap back to where it was. If a player is not happy with the cards that are in their hand, they can discard and draw another one. So if they were to do this, the card would be discarded, the action would not take place, and then they would draw another card and add it to their hand. Now that takes up one of the steps. So in this example, that was the second player's action. So they cannot play any more cards. With all that in mind, a player is able to play 2 cards from their hand. They could discard 2 cards from their hand and replace them one at a time. Or they could, like we did, play a card, perform the action, and then discard a card and draw again. That would end the take action step of their turn. Now it's time to capture a ghost. The player collects the ghost that the trap is resting on. So here the trap is resting on the ghost jogger. The player captures that ghost and adds it to their collection. Once a ghost has been removed from the circle, the trap is moved to the next ghost based on the direction card. So here the direction card is going clockwise, so the ghost trap is moved 1 slot over to the jumpsuit. If a player captures a ghost card with an action, on their next turn, they can use that action if they want, and it does not count as one of the 2 actions like when they play a card from their hand. A ghost's action can only be used once per round, and when it is used, you want to turn the card sideways to show that. Kind of like tapping in Magic. Once a ghost is captured, the player will end their turn by refilling their hand back to 3 cards. So this player draws 1. and that ends their turn. Play passes left. And that's it. That is how to play the game. Each player will take turns moving the ghost trap by playing action cards from their hand or using actions from captured ghosts. And eventually, all of the ghosts will be removed from the circle. The round ends when the final ghost is captured. Set up for a new round and continue play until the end of the third round. At that point, it's time to tally up your score. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. And that's how to play Ghostbusters the card game. So as you can see from the demonstration, this is a very simple game that relies heavily on luck. Sure, there is some decision making. You have a hand of action cards. You choose where the ghost trap goes, but you are limited to the cards in your hand and any actions that your captured ghosts present for you. Now, this game is a retheming of an older game, and you can tell that the Ghostbusters theme doesn't perfectly align with what you're doing. If you look up other reviews, you will see that many people say that the Ghostbusters theme was just tacked on, and I think that's very obvious. And I don't think they tried to hide that. It's very easy to find the history of the game, what the game was before, and a simple retheming that lined up with the release of the new Ghostbusters movie, Afterlife, makes perfect sense. It is unfortunate though that the Ghostbusters IP was attached to a game that is a little lackluster. I think kids might enjoy it. The aspect of catching ghosts, especially if they see the new Ghostbusters movie. Unfortunately, you're only ever going to see this game either on Amazon or online or in a hobby board game store. Now, for that particular market, I don't think this is a great game. It relies too heavily on luck. The art and graphic design, I don't even think is that great. They appeared to have taken like the characterized comic book style of the modern Ghostbusters comics. You see a lot of characters from the movies, a lot of characters from the cartoon or that comic, and it's just all mashed together, and I don't think the layout is that appealing. It's so close to being a nice collectible item for fans of Ghostbusters, but the art direction does not hit on the 80s movie notes. It does not hit on the original cartoon. It really pulls from the new comic book style. And it's, like I said, it's ultra characterized. So although you can tell who is who, it just doesn't strike that nostalgic chord for me. So overall, that's my stance on it. I saw this online, bought it off of Amazon, was extremely excited about the prospect of a Ghostbusters themed card game. And then I was pretty let down at the lackluster art and graphic design, the tacked on theme to an older game that doesn't really fit being a Ghostbuster. It's really just, here's a set collection game where you're moving the piece that allows you to pick up the card. Of course, that piece is going to be the ghost trap. There's some gear throughout the ghost deck, which doesn't make any sense. There's ghosts in the action deck, which is supposed to be the Ghostbusters and the characters that capture ghosts. The implementation of Slimer is cool, but again, it's not a perfect melding of theme and gameplay. And I think you can pass on this if you're not completely 100% sold on having some Ghostbusters themed products in your collection. Well, that is everything in the box. Those are my thoughts and how to play Ghostbusters the card game. I hope you found this video helpful, and be sure to check the description down below for links to GameRules.com and my official website, RiffleShuffleandRoll.com. That is it for now. Until next time, keep on playing.